Picture this. It's July 2nd, 1850.
Right.
The setting is England, and the country is just grappling with this almost unbelievable sequence of events. Out of nowhere, the British Prime Minister is crushed by a horse.
Just a total freak accident.
Exactly, killed in a freak accident.
Yeah.
And on that exact same day, an assassin lunges at Queen Victoria with an iron rod.
Which she obviously survives, but...
She's left battered, yeah. With a black eye, a bruised forehead. And the very next day, while she is literally nursing these fresh wounds, she is handed a glittering 105-carat diamond.
When you look at that historical timeline you just laid out, I mean, it is so easy to see why the British public immediately began whispering about dark magic.
Right.
Because the arrival of that specific stone coincided with this sudden burst of national anxiety and violence, which, as we will see, was actually a very common theme for this particular object.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are unpacking a fascinating source document that details the 700-year, incredibly bloody history of the Kohinoor diamond.
It's quite a history.
If you've ever heard the name, you probably know it's famous. But the historical records we are looking at today reveal this long trail of collapsed empires, murdered heirs, and a stone that 4 different countries are literally still fighting over today.
And to do this material justice, we really need to set a clear parameter for our discussion today.
Absolutely.
We are strictly analyzing the historical text and the documented timeline provided in our sources.
Yeah, separating the facts from the fiction.
Precisely. We will separate the verifiable historical events from the superstitions that gripped commoners and kings alike. So we're looking at the documented facts of what this diamond left in its wake and examining how a single object can carry so much geopolitical weight.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the timeline is just wild.
It really is.
You know, most of us complain about having bad luck when we, lose our car keys.
Right.
But the people who claimed ownership of this diamond tended to lose their entire empires.
The scale of loss associated with it is just staggering. And to understand the momentum behind this, we have to go back to the beginning of its documented existence.
Okay, set the scene.
The year is roughly 1306. We are in the Golconda region, specifically in what is the Guntur district of modern-day Andhra Pradesh.
I want to pause on the location for a second, because the method they used to find diamonds back then wasn't anything like the massive industrial deep earth mining operations we picture today.
No, not at all.
So how did they actually extract something like this back in 1306?
They utilized a technique known as ancient placer mining.
Placer mining?
Right. So local miners would wait for the Krishna River to wash down alluvial deposits.
Okay.
Then they would wade into the water using bamboo sieves, just painstakingly sifting through the river sediment.
Wow.
It was a process requiring immense patience, relying entirely on the natural erosion of the earth to reveal these hidden stones.
And that extreme patience eventually paid off when they pulled an absolute monster out of the river. How big are we actually talking?
The initial rough diamond weighed in at 793 carats.
That is huge.
To visualize that, you were looking at over 158 grams of pure, transparent light. Our sources note that it possessed a level of clarity that modern gemology classifies as D-grade.
Which is like the absolute top tier. Right?
It is the highest possible quality of diamond in existence. A flawless, massive anomaly of nature.
Finding something that large and that perfect must have immediately changed the power dynamics in the region. Who actually took possession of it first?
The first documented owners were the rulers of the Kakatiya dynasty. They were deeply devoted to their patron deity, goddess Bhadrakali.
Okay.
And in their capital city, Warangal, they made a fascinating cultural decision.
Right.
Rather than keeping it in a royal treasury or wearing it as a display of personal wealth.
Which is what you'd expect.
Exactly. Instead, they placed the massive stone into the left eye of the goddess's idol within their grand temple.
Which is such a striking image. But putting a stone of that immense value out in the open like that also seems to be where the superstition begins to fester.
It does.
The local belief took root that whoever owned this diamond would rule the world but would eventually face total ruin.
Right.
And the specific rule was that only a woman or a god could wear it without inviting destruction.
What's fascinating here is that modern historians are quick to point out that this specific curse isn't explicitly written down in any ancient Vedic scripts.
Oh, really? So it was more of an oral thing?
Exactly. It appears to be an oral tradition. However, the narrative of the curse became so culturally potent that later British and French writers treated it as absolute historical fact.
Because it just fit the narrative perfectly.
Right. And the reason that belief stuck so firmly is that the historical evidence for the curse started piling up almost immediately.
Because the Kakatiya Empire was at its absolute peak when they placed the diamond in the temple. They were wealthy and seemingly untouchable, but what happens next?
Shortly after the diamond is installed, the Delhi Sultanate sends General Malik Kafur to attack Warangal. The empire that had never been defeated was utterly crushed. Their entire treasury was looted and hauled off to Delhi, and naturally that included the diamond.
And it gets presented to the Sultan, Alauddin Khilji.
Yes.
Imagine being Khilji, looking at this massive, flawless stone, trying to wrap your mind around what it is actually worth. He asks his officials to value it, and their response is chilling.
They informed him that its price could not be calculated.
Wow.
They stated that there was only one such a thing in the entire world, making it completely beyond the realm of traditional commerce.
But Khilji doesn't get to enjoy his newly acquired, incalculable wealth for long, does he?
He does not. He died shortly after acquiring the stone.
Of course.
Following his death, his own general murdered his children, and the entire Khilji dynasty collapsed. The stone then moved to the Tughlaq dynasty, who were subsequently brutally defeated as well.
So what does this all mean? If you are a commoner watching this unfold, a very clear, terrifying pattern is forming. The diamond moves from king to king, and with every single transfer, the dynasty crumbles. It's easy to see why the public belief in black magic grew so strong.
It acts as a post hoc rationalization for the extreme violence that immense wealth naturally attracts in unstable empires.
That's a very insightful way to look at it. The psychological impact of the diamond was becoming just as significant as its financial value.
Eventually, the stone found its way into the hands of Babar.
The legendary founder of the Mughal Empire.
Yes, after he defeated Ibrahim Lodi.
We get another incredible attempt to put a price tag on this thing during Babar's reign. When his son asks what it's worth, Babar gives this famous estimate.
He does.
He says the diamond is worth 2.5 days of the entire world's daily expenses.
Think about the audacity of that valuation.
Yeah.
It completely breaks our modern concept of monetary value.
And at this point in history, it didn't even have its famous name yet. It was simply known as the Babar diamond.
The name was yet to come, but the pattern of instability continued. Babar died in 1530, and his son, Humayun, inherited an empire that was already weakening.
Right.
When a rival named Sher Shah Suri attacked, Humayun was forced into exile. Fleeing across the continent, he managed to keep the massive diamond with him.
Even nearly losing it during a stop for prayer.
Exactly. He eventually sought sanctuary with the Persian ruler, Shah Tahmasp.
And Humayun essentially trades the diamond for his life and military protection.
Precisely. This is a significant milestone because it marks the first time the diamond left the Indian subcontinent.
But its absence was brief.
It was, and the reason for its return is a masterclass in regional geopolitics. Shah Tahmasp was a Shia Muslim, and he wanted to forge a strong political alliance with other Shia rulers back in India.
Ah, okay.
So in 1547, he sent the diamond back to India as a diplomatic gift to King Burhan Nizam Shah of the Ahmadnagar Sultanate.
It's fascinating how the stone transforms from a religious artifact to an instrument of statecraft. From there, it circulates among various rulers until we hit the year 1656.
Landing in the hands of the famous Mughal emperor, Shah Jahan.
And Shah Jahan isn't content just owning it, he wants to perfect it.
His obsession with aesthetic perfection led to one of the most disastrous decisions in the diamond's history.
He hired a Venetian diamond cutter named Hortensio Borgio,
essentially giving him a blank check and unlimited resources to maximize the stone's brilliance.
You can imagine the pressure on Borgio, but it turns into an absolute, unmitigated disaster.
Borgio was overly aggressive with his cutting and polishing techniques. By the time he was finished, he had severely compromised the stone.
He reduced the magnificent 793-carat diamond down to a mere 280 carats.
Over 500 carats of the most valuable object on Earth just ground into dust.
How did Shah Jahan react when he saw what Borgio had done?
He was visibly enraged. Instead of compensating Borgio for his labor, Shah Jahan slapped him with a staggering fine of 10,000 rupees.
Wow. But despite the massive loss in mass, the diamond still became the absolute centerpiece of Shah Jahan's ultimate vanity project.
The Taki Tos, or the Peacock Throne.
And the descriptions of this throne are mind-boggling. It was encrusted with sapphires, rubies, and emeralds, built from hundreds of pounds of solid gold.
It was actually more expensive to build than the Taj Mahal itself.
It was the ultimate projection of imperial power, but the pattern holds. As soon as this magnificent throne was finished, instability struck again.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
In 1658, Shah Jahan's own son, Aurangzeb, overthrows him.
He literally locks his father in a prison in the Agra fort.
But Aurangzeb does something very unusual when he assumes power. He demonstrates a remarkable level of caution.
Because he refuses to sit on it.
Exactly. He absolutely refused to sit on the peacock throne, and he explicitly refused to wear the diamond.
The historical irony here is profound. By refusing to engage with the stone, Aurangzeb became one of the very few owners in its history to rule for a long, sustained period without meeting a sudden, violent end.
His caution might have saved him personally, but it couldn't save his descendants. Over the next few decades, the Mughal Empire rots from the inside out.
Becoming a hollow shell. And weakness always draws hungry eyes.
By 1738, the Persian ruler Nadir Shah saw that weakness and invaded.
Right.
His motivation was not conquest or governance, it was strictly to loot the immense wealth of the Mughals. His forces smashed the legendary peacock throne and systematically stripped it of its jewels.
So the reigning emperor, Muhammad Shah Vangila, is forced to surrender absolutely everything. But he tries to play one last desperate card.
He does.
He actually hides the great diamond inside his turban. How does Nadir Shah find out about it?
A courtier named Nurbai informed Nadir Shah exactly where the diamond was concealed.
Betrayal from the inside.
Always. Knowing this, Nadir Shah orchestrated a brilliant trap. He invited Rangila to a meeting and suggested they observe an old tradition of exchanging turbans.
As a gesture of eternal goodwill and brotherhood.
Right.
It's an offer Rangila can't refuse without causing a massive diplomatic incident or revealing his deception.
Exactly the corner Nadir Shah wanted him in. As the turbans were swapped, the massive diamond tumbled out.
And our sources recount that upon seeing the brilliant stone catch the light, Nadir Shah exclaimed,
Kohinoor.
Which translates from Persian to Mountain of Light.
After centuries of bloodshed, the diamond finally had its permanent name.
The Mountain of Light. It is a perfect name for it. So Nadir Shah takes his new prize back to Persia, but his luck runs out incredibly fast.
Following the established pattern, Nadir Shah was assassinated shortly after. His empire fractured and his treasury was looted.
In the ensuing chaos, his most trusted guard, Ahmad Shah Durrani, managed to escape with the Kohinoor.
Fleeing into Afghanistan, where it remained a tightly guarded asset of the Afghan royal family for decades.
Eventually, it ends up with a descendant named Shah Shuja Durrani. His own family turns against him, forcing him to run for his life back toward India.
He seeks the protection of the legendary Maharaja Ranjit Singh in Punjab.
And Ranjit Singh was a famously shrewd tactician. He agreed to offer Shah Shuja sanctuary, but the price of that military protection was the Kohinoor itself.
There is this amazing historical moment during these negotiations where Ranjit Singh asks Shah Shuja's wife what the diamond is actually worth.
Yes, and she gives this incredibly poetic answer.
She told him to imagine 5 incredibly strong men. They throw stones in every direction, north, south, east, west. And one throws a stone straight up into the sky.
And she said if you took the entire massive space between those stones
and filled it completely with solid gold, it still would not equal the value of the Kohinoor.
Just a stunning way to visualize value. Ultimately, the deal is struck. Ranjit Singh trades his protection, 300,000 rupees and 50 horses for the stone.
So in 1813, the Kohinoor officially returns to Indian hands.
Ranjit Singh adored the stone, wearing it proudly on his arm in public to project his regional dominance. But by this time, the British East India Company was heavily entrenched in India.
They were intensely monitoring Ranjit Singh's wealth. British officers even requested private viewings of the stone. They were essentially waiting for a moment of weakness to strike.
And that moment arrives in 1839. As Maharaja Ranjit Singh is on his deathbed, he begins the customary practice of donating his vast wealth. What did he actually want to do with the Kohinoor?
He explicitly expressed a dying wish to donate the diamond to the Jagannath Temple in Puri.
Okay.
However, his treasurer, a man named Beli Ram, outright refused to execute the order. Beli Ram argued that the diamond was state property, meaning it wasn't the Maharaja's personal asset to give away.
That single refusal to donate the stone to the temple sets off a chain reaction of absolute carnage.
The moment Ranjit Singh died, the Sikh Empire descended into a horrifying bloodbath.
His son, Parak Singh, took the throne and was promptly poisoned.
The crown then passed to his grandson, now Nihal Singh, who was killed when a massive stone gate mysteriously collapsed on him.
The subsequent ruler, Sher Singh, was brutally assassinated, Within just 5 years, the entire royal lineage was practically erased.
You look at that 5-year timeline, and it's no wonder people believed the stone was cursed. The only heir left standing was a 5-year-old boy named Dulip Singh.
How do the British exploit this chaotic vacuum?
They systematically dismantle the weakened empire. In 1845, they attack, placing the young boy's mother under strict house arrest and taking total administrative control.
And by 1849, they manufacture a legal transfer. They force Dulip Singh, who is just 7 years old at this point, to sign the Treaty of Lahore.
And if you look at the actual text of that document, Article 3 specifically states that the Kohinoor diamond must be surrendered directly to the Queen of England.
They even staged a highly public ceremony where this terrified child was made to physically hand over the diamond to make it appear like a perfectly legitimate diplomatic exchange.
But securing the diamond on paper was one thing. Physically transporting the stone to England proved to be a logistical nightmare that seemingly awakened the curse once again.
The logistics alone are fascinating. They seal it in a heavy safe, lock it with 2 separate keys held by 2 different officers, and load it onto a ship called the HMS Medea.
And the voyage is a disaster from the start.
Almost immediately after leaving port, a lethal cholera outbreak sweeps through the crew.
If that wasn't enough to cause panic, the ship was then battered by massive violent storms that nearly sank the vessel entirely.
Which brings us precisely back to the scene we painted at the very beginning of our discussion. The ship finally docks in England on July 2nd, 1850. The Prime Minister is killed, the Queen is assaulted, and the diamond arrives amidst a cloud of bizarre, violent chaos.
But after all that blood, all that death, and nearly sinking a ship, what is Queen Victoria's actual reaction when she finally sees it?
She was notably disappointed.
To her modern European sensibilities, the historic Mughal cut, which prioritized preserving the stone's mass over its sparkle, didn't maximize the diamond's brilliance.
It looked dull to her, so she decides to have it altered again.
She handed it over to David Brewster, a renowned pioneer in optics, and ordered him to recut it. Brewster spent £8,000 on the process.
He slashed its size drastically yet again, taking it from 280 carats down to its current weight of 105.6 carats to give it that brilliant, faceted European style.
Unbelievable. Over the centuries, human intervention has literally ground away nearly 700 carats of this stone.
But the royal family couldn't ignore the dark cloud hanging over the diamond forever.
They could not. A few years later, Queen Victoria's beloved husband, Prince Albert, died at a surprisingly young age.
That tragedy seemed to be the breaking point.
The royal family finally decided to take the ancient warning seriously. They issued a strict royal decree stating that no male heir should ever wear the diamond.
It was carefully set into the queen consort's crown, reserved exclusively for the women of the royal family, a tradition that is strictly adhered to even today.
Which brings us to the modern era. The fighting over the Kohinoor hasn't stopped. It has just evolved. It has moved from battlefields into courtrooms and diplomatic cables.
The source text outlines this incredible 4-way modern tug-of-war.
The modern claims are deeply rooted in the diamond's complex geography and its history of conquest. Since gaining independence in 1947, India has relentlessly demanded its return.
In 1976, Pakistan officially claimed that the diamond belonged to them, arguing that Lahore, the city where the treaty was signed, was the capital of the Sikh Empire, and it's currently located within Pakistani territory.
Then you have the Taliban jumping in, claiming it rightfully belongs to Afghanistan because of the long period it was held by the Durrani dynasty.
And Iran claims it belongs to them because Nadir Shah conquered it and brought it to Persia.
Right.
How did the British respond to all of these overlapping demands?
The official British response has remained uniformly consistent. Their legal stance relies entirely on the 1849 Treaty of Lahore. They argue that they acquired it legally through an internationally recognized treaty.
And their broader defense is that if they started returning historical items based on retroactive territorial claims, it would set a precedent that would empty every museum in England within a week.
And inside India, the legal battle to mandate its return is incredibly complicated. Our sources point out that India's Antiquities and Art Treasures Act of 1972 only allows the government to legally claim items that were taken after 1972.
There is a UNESCO convention from 1970 that has very similar temporal limitations. Even the Supreme Court of India had to look at this case and admit that it simply does not have the jurisdiction to pass an order forcing a foreign sovereign nation to return a historical object.
While the strictly legal avenues present massive hurdles, India counters the British argument of a legal treaty with a very potent moral argument.
Because the British insist Dalip Singh gave it voluntarily.
Yes, and India's counter-argument asks, how can a 7-year-old boy whose empire has just been dismantled and whose mother is being held under house arrest by a foreign military possibly give true voluntary consent?
They argue it is the textbook definition of colonial loot, taken through a massive abuse of military power.
Furthermore, they point out that the physical archaeological evidence unquestionably proves the stone originated in the Golconda region, and Indian rulers held it for the absolute longest continuous stretch of its documented history.
It creates a profound legal and ethical stalemate. Today, the Kohinoor sits securely behind glass in the Tower of London, heavily guarded and removed from the crowns of kings. Yet its shadow remains remarkably long.
It really does. Because those old whispers of the curse, they never truly went away.
In 2024, when King Charles III, who is the first male owner of the diamond in generations, even if he doesn't wear it.
When he was diagnosed with cancer.
Exactly. When he was diagnosed with cancer, the chatter on social media and in the press started all over again. People were quick to point out the historical irony.
Before the Kohinoor arrived on English shores, the British Empire was so unbelievably vast that the sun literally never set on it.
And today, Britain is a small island nation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear that whether you attribute it to ancient magic or simply the dark irony of history, the Mountain of Light has a distinct habit of burning the empires that hold it.
The Kohinoor is far more than just a piece of compressed carbon. It is a potent symbol of stolen heritage.
It is a cultural artifact that represents a deeply painful history that is still very clearly unresolved.
It really is an unfinished story, and that leaves you with something to really think about. If the immense value of this stone, its mystique, its fame, its name, is entirely built on this 700-year, incredibly bloody history of conquest and empire building,
what actually happens to its legacy if it is finally returned to its origin?
does the ancient curse finally break, or does an entirely new chapter of geopolitical conflict begin for the Mountain of Light?
It's an incredible thing to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time as we unpack another fascinating piece of history.